Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into a story that's been told for way too long, honestly. This idea, that black fathers are mostly absent or maybe just not that involved. It's a stereotype that's really cast a long shadow, obscuring what so many black men are actually doing in their kids' lives.
Exactly. And what's so interesting, especially as we look at 2025, is that this story isn't just changing a little bit, it's really being rewritten. We're
Yeah.
seeing research and just, lived experiences showing black fathers as, well, deeply engaged, active, really transformative figures.
So how are our sources framing this? They're using this term, real superheroes,
Hmm.
which sounds big, but they argue it captures this incredible mix of resilience, purpose, commitment,
Yeah.
all happening against this backdrop of, well, serious historical and present-day challenges.
Right.
So our mission here is to kind of unpack that. Why superheroes? And look at how the black community itself is driving this redefinition, really taking control of the narrative.
And that superhero idea, it's more than just a catchy phrase, isn't it? It's like a conscious choice. It lets black fathers sort of reclaim that story, state their impact, and really underscore that resilience you mentioned.
Yeah, and the research points out something interesting about heroes in general. Often you see these figures with extraordinary strength emerge when, the usual systems are failing or a community is being pushed to the margins.
Mhm.
So for black fathers, it's not just praise, it's reflecting the exceptional effort needed to nurture families when facing systemic roadblocks. It's about shaping a better future, really.
And to really get that superhero thing, you absolutely have to look back. The challenges aren't just today's problems. They have deep, deep roots in centuries of systemic oppression. Think about slavery itself. The whole system was designed to tear families apart. Fathers were robbed of their roles, and worse, they carried this awful weight, this shame, knowing they couldn't protect their children.
That history, it just highlights the trauma passed down through generations, doesn't it? It connects the dots. These aren't just isolated issues today. They're echoes of that painful past. And it didn't just stop when slavery ended, right? What came next?
No, it didn't stop. After slavery, you had things like sharecropping, which often forced black men away from their families. It was this terrible choice, like the sources say, to separate to survive.
Wow. Separate to survive. That phrase really hits hard.
Right, it does. It captures this brutal reality designed to keep the black family unstable, specifically targeting the father's place in it. And those pressures, those historical forces, they ripple into today's barriers.
So how do those ripples show up now? You mentioned this invisible burden earlier. What does that actually look like for black fathers today?
Well, it's multifaceted. There are huge economic hurdles. The legacy of slavery, Jim Crow, lack of investment, mass incarceration. It all stacks up. Take Illinois in 2021, the black male labor force participation, just 53.1%. Nationally, it was over 63%.
Big difference.
Huge. And in Chicago, young black men aged 20-24, joblessness hit like 55.2%. That's staggering.
Yeah.
It's not just numbers. It shows how the system itself can prevent men from providing. And that takes a massive psychological toll, undermining the family core.
It really makes you think about the unseen struggles, the daily battles, just to be present. And it's not just jobs, is it? Homelessness disproportionately affects black fathers, too. Our sources point to policies, even ones meant to help, like the Family First Prevention Services Act. It aims to keep kids out of foster care, which is good, but often the resources end up focused more on mothers and children, so fathers can get left out of crucial support, housing, employment help, mental health services.
Right, which raises this really critical question. How can policies, even well-intentioned ones, end up sidelining black men even when everyone acknowledges their importance? It shows that fixing things isn't just about adding programs, it's about taking apart the structures that actively harm or exclude black fathers.
And ensuring resources are actually accessible.
Exactly. And all this navigating discrimination, financial instability, it wears people down. We see higher rates of depression, low self-esteem, feelings of powerlessness. It directly impacts parenting.
Okay, so given all that, this huge weight of history and present challenges, what about the impact these fathers do have? Because the evidence there seems incredibly strong.
Oh, it's overwhelming. When black fathers are actively involved, it's not just a nice to have. It's genuinely transformative for their kids. You see better outcomes across the board, school, emotional health, social skills, everything.
And there's this multiplier effect idea, too.
Yes, this is really fascinating. The research suggests that the positive impact of an involved Black father is often disproportionately stronger for minority children compared to white children. It's like their presence provides this unique buffer, this kind of resilience blueprint that helps kids succeed against those systemic odds we talked about. It makes their role even more critical, societally speaking.
Let's get specific, because the data points are pretty powerful. Kids with involved dads are twice as likely to go to college or get a stable job after high school,
75% less likely to have a teen birth,
80% less likely to end up in jail.
and half as likely to show multiple symptoms of depression.
It goes on, right, academically.
Yeah, academically, they're 43% more likely to get A's, 33% less likely to have to repeat a grade. And specifically for Black children, the difference is really stark. In families with fathers present, 90% get good grades. In father-absent homes, it drops to 41%.
Wow, 90 versus 41. That really drives it home.
It absolutely does.
And it's clearly not just about grades or avoiding bad outcomes. It starts much earlier, right? Fostering bonds, cognitive growth.
Right from infancy. Active fathers build those emotional bonds. They stimulate cognitive development through playing, talking, exploring together. They model how to solve problems. And they play a huge role in shaping a child's self-image, their sense of worth. Our sources really highlight how Black fathers often excel at building emotional intelligence, especially with sons, through open talk and really listening.
Which directly pushes back against those old, harmful stereotypes about Black masculinity.
Exactly. And they teach leadership, too, by example. Responsibility, determination, they pass on ethics, empathy, a strong sense of cultural pride. They don't shy away from tough topics either, like substance abuse. They create space for honest conversations, building trust.
What I found really interesting was this idea of context-aware parenting, how Black fathers often parent sons and daughters slightly differently, based on their own experiences.
Yes, that's very insightful. With sons, there's often an emphasis on, staying safe, avoiding risks, being a guide in a world that can be dangerous for young Black men. With daughters, the focus might shift more towards fostering self-esteem, teaching about healthy relationships, and navigating the double barriers of race and gender to succeed academically.
That tailored guidance, coming from their lived experience of racism, it's like this powerful act of protection.
It absolutely is. And beyond the individual child, these fathers are strengthening the whole family unit. They're keepers of intergenerational ties, of cultural heritage. This concept of a legacy of survival really speaks to the incredible resilience and the deep bonds within Black families, celebrating that kinship.
And we're seeing positive signs statistically, right? The proportion of Black kids in intact, two-parent homes has actually been rising since the mid-90s.
That's right. It suggests a real strengthening, a pushback against those long-term fragmentation trends.
But the heroism, it extends beyond the family walls too, doesn't it? Historically and today.
Oh, definitely. Black fathers have been crucial in civil rights fights. Think about Oliver Brown v. Board of Education. That was a father fighting for his daughter's right to a decent education. His personal fight sparked a national movement.
And the fathers of the Little Rock Nine, facing down those angry mobs.
Exactly. Walking their kids through sheer hatred, teaching dignity under fire, their willingness to risk everything for their children's future makes that connection between fatherly love and fighting for broader change crystal clear.
It reframes figures like Malcolm X or Muhammad Ali too. Their emphasis on education, self-respect, pride, those are deeply fatherly actions.
Absolutely. And this advocacy continues today, sometimes in less recognized ways. Like Black fathers getting involved in tackling the shocking racial disparities in maternal health, Black women dying 3 to 4 times more often than white women. Fathers are stepping up to fight that injustice too. It's a holistic view of protection.
So looking ahead to 2025, what are the key shifts? Economic empowerment seems huge.
It really is. There's this growing sense that economic self-sufficiency isn't just personal. It's community power. It's legacy building. So you see more focus on entrepreneurship, investing, financial literacy, teaching the next generation how to build wealth.
And the numbers back that up. Black-owned businesses generate what, over $150 billion a year? Employ over 1 million people.
That's right. And Black consumer spending is projected to hit something like $1.7 trillion by 2030. Significant power.
Plus, the sources note, Black women are the fastest growing group of business owners. That's a huge part of this economic shift. What else is trending?
Mental health is definitely stepping into the light.
Hmm.
Recognizing the toll of navigating racism while trying to be strong for the family, it's immense. So more Black fathers are seeking support themselves, talking openly about mental wellness, creating safe spaces, teaching their kids it's okay not to be okay. It's proactive resilience.
That feels like a really important shift. And technology. That's another area.
Yeah, absolutely. Fathers are getting savvy with AI, social media, digital learning tools. The goal is making tech work for their kids' advancement, not just be a distraction. You see high rates of parents using AI for caregiving tasks, monitoring screen time closely, adapting that protective role for the digital age.
A modern superhero toolkit.
Kind of, yeah.
Hmm.
And alongside tech, there's this strong pull towards cultural celebration and experiential parenting. Fathers are actively teaching heritage, diversity, using books, toys, food, museum visits. And there's this big shift towards experiences over things. Something like 88% of parents feel experiences are more valuable than stuff. Strengthening family bonds, unstructured play, getting outdoors that's making a comeback too.
That sounds really positive. Finally, none of this happens in a vacuum, right? Community support seems vital.
Absolutely critical. In 2025, we're seeing Black fathers intentionally building these strong networks, mentorship, sharing resources, just having each other's backs. There's this understanding that one father's success helps lift others. Psychologists stress how important these spaces are for sharing, support, mental health.
Any specific examples that stood out?
Oh, definitely. You hear these powerful stories of fathers who've been through the justice system, using that experience as a, quote, springboard for change, dedicating themselves to raising their kids differently to cultivate greatness. And Black fathers of autistic children, they're building incredible communities, support groups, podcasts like Autism's, nonprofits like Awesome Kicks. They're advocating for visibility, resources, policy changes like paid leave.
And we can't forget the village dads, right? The grandfathers, uncles, neighbors.
Exactly. The barbershops, the community centers, those informal mentor networks are incredibly powerful. It really does take a village.
So to really support these superheroes, what needs to happen policy-wise? What collective actions are needed?
It's about putting resources where they're needed. Funding for Black entrepreneurs, making schools more welcoming and effective for boys, promoting positive pro-social masculinity, emphasizing empathy, responsibility. It also means creating services specifically for fathers, tailored job programs, legal help, mental health, and substance abuse treatment that understands their perspective.
Housing support, too. Creating shelters that are actually father-friendly.
Yes, definitely. And fundamentally tackling the racial bias baked into systems. That means culturally competent services, training staff about racial trauma, and actually tracking who uses services by race to see where the gaps are. It's about designing systems that see and support Black fathers.
So wrapping this up, it feels clear. In 2025, calling Black fathers the real superheroes isn't hyperbole. Their journey against immense historical and ongoing challenges is defined by incredible resilience, deep commitment, and a truly transformative impact.
They're shaping their children's futures in profound ways, emotionally, intellectually, socially. That multiplier effect we talked about, it's real, buffering kids against disadvantage, setting them up for success.
Their role models, teaching values, emotional intelligence, navigating a complex world, they're anchors for their families, preserving culture, strengthening bonds.
And that legacy of civil rights advocacy, it continues. They're fighting for justice, for equity and education, even in healthcare for their communities. It's a broad shield of protection.
And their strength is only growing thanks to these community networks, peer support, and all these positive emerging trends.
Which means it's really past time for society as a whole to see and celebrate the real story of Black fatherhood.
Recognizing their presence, their purpose, their power. It's not just about giving credit where it's due. It's an investment in our communities, in our future.
Absolutely. When you support Black fathers, you're investing in the future leaders, the innovators, the activists, the change makers they are raising right now. Their legacy really is one of love, of leadership, and ultimately of liberation. It's a powerful testament to what dedicated fathers achieve against all odds, building a better tomorrow.